Veteran Joe Thomas McEwen was born in southern Kentucky, where he spent most of his childhood. His family moved to Nashville, where he became a student at Father Ryan High School. In 1954, Mr. McEwen joined the Navy. His basic training took place at Naval Station Great Lakes, located in Illinois.
The Navy saved my life, there's no doubt about it, because I was spiraling down pretty bad, making $15 a week. And I didn't have a car, I didn't have anything. Everything I owned was in a suitcase. And with the Navy, they taught me discipline, loyalty, being on time, doing what you're supposed to do, that people depend on you, taking that home through my whole life. Sometimes the Marines, there'd be 500 or 600 of them, they'd sleeping everywhere. They were super nice guys. We were a little crowded at times. In fact, everything was crowded. If you're claustrophobic, that's not the place to go in, is the Navy. I was on a LST, a minesweeper, and a troop transport. And on the LST was the most, I'd been around Hatteras about 6 times. And we were doing 35-degree rolls, and I was really terrified at that time. I was just a kid.
During the Korean War, Joe served on various ships, such as the USS Minotaur, the USS Lloyd, and the USS Fremont. He received his discharge in 1962. By 1969, Joe was married and had 3 children. He decided to make a career change and join the Metropolitan Police Force in Nashville, where he worked for 20 years. Mr. McEwen enjoys playing golf and singing karaoke for his friends and family on the weekends. Here he is with Smile by Nat King Cole.
Light up your face with gladness, hide every trace of sadness, although a tear may be ever so near. That's the time you must keep on trying. Smile, what's the use of crying? You'll see the sun come shining through if you'll just smile.
We were a communications ship which was on an old converted World War II carrier. Unluckily, we had to stop in Hawaii for a couple of weeks to get that repaired. Cable or a rope or something that broke, and we went sideways and banged into the side and tore some of the antennas off the side of it we had on there.
Gary Guthrie is an 82-year-old veteran who served in the U.S. Navy for 4 years during Vietnam.
We were a communications ship which was on an old converted World War II carrier. It was rebuilt down in Mobile, Alabama before we got onto it and put all kinds of antennas on the flight deck and electronic equipment, teletypes, transmitters, stuff like that. And we were floating off the coast of Vietnam, relaying messages from the Pentagon and to the troops in South Vietnam. I was an electronics technician. I was assigned to transmitter repair. We had huge transmitters, had a great big room, about 100 foot long, I guess, 50 foot wide. Probably had a dozen to 15 humongous transmitters in them. When they'd go down, we would have to get them back up, work on them, repair them, replace parts, and troubleshoot them.
One of his most memorable experiences at sea was when a huge storm hit the ship.
And then went up in the North Sea and we got in a tremendous storm up there. It like to tore the ship up. They said it was the storm of the century. We were just floating around out there, lost power. Radar got knocked out, had no idea where we are. It damaged the ship. It tore the lifeboats off of it and caved some of the sides in with the big waves hit. So then we had to go back and then get all that fixed before we could go back out. And then when we left, after we got that fixed, we were on our way to Vietnam and we went through this Panama Canal and we just barely get through there. The canal was just barely wide enough for us to get through there, and a cable or a rope or something that broke, and we went sideways and banged into the side and tore some of the antennas off the side of it we had on there. So then Unluckily, we had to stop in Hawaii for a couple of weeks to get that repaired.
Gary loved his time in the Navy, at least most of it.
Would I join again? Yes. Because I only remember the good parts right now, see. I forgot all the bad. I wouldn't want to go through boot camp again.
Reed Kieswetter, WBHS 9 News.
This is Paul Gonzalez, a Navy veteran with 20 years of experience under his belt.
The United States Navy. The good service. We bring our house and home with us. We don't sleep on the cold, hard ground.
His story begins in 1954.
Raised in Los Angeles. I applied for a Navy ROTC scholarship. I was accepted, and the school I was sent to was the Citadel, which is in Charleston, South Carolina. And I was commissioned in May of 1976 as an ensign in the United States Navy. And from there, I went on to my first ship.
Everything would take a turn for the worse for Paul on a beautiful day in 2001.
Glenwood was a beautiful day. It really was. It was just an absolutely beautiful day.
On 9/11, Paul was in the Pentagon preparing to move to a new office when they received word that New York had been attacked.
One of the guys I worked with was a pilot and said that that area in New York is restricted. There's no way an airliner got in there by mistake. That was on deliberate.
Then, at 9:37, a plane hit the Pentagon.
I heard a noise, and the thought went through my mind, do I tighten or do I loosen? And the next thing I know, I'm being lifted off the ground in a fireball and flying through the air.
The Navy had trained him in firefighting, so luckily he was prepared. He went to gather everyone he could, helping them along the way.
And I got the group together and I went through, okay, this is where the exits are. This is what you do. And then, again, because of the training in firefighting and whatnot, I went the wrong direction. I went back further into our office looking for the rest of the people. And that didn't work, and there was nobody back there, and found a way out, and we crawled our way out of the room.
Half of the people working in his office, 184 people, would die, but he managed to save many more people that day. The injuries Paul sustained on 9/11 are still causing problems today, 21 years later.
And we moved to Nashville because my oldest daughter who went to Vanderbilt, married a boy who went to Vanderbilt, and then she got her sister to move here, and then she goes, oh, by the way, Mom and Dad, I'm pregnant.
Paul now enjoys retirement, playing games and forcing his grandchildren to do jobs for him. Luke Deaton, WBHS 9 News.
Jim Steele enjoys his days watching football, basketball, and baseball. He also does many woodworking projects around his house. Some include making a well-crafted staircase, constructing a shelf for flowers, and making a bike rack for his grandkids. Jim enlisted into the Navy in 1948. He shares his inspiration.
My older brother was in the Coast Guard, and he had been in the Coast Guard several years. And I figured, well, I've graduated from high school. I decided I would like to go in the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard wouldn't take me because at that time they weren't recruiting. So I said, well, I'll go in the Navy. And that's what I did. I chose the Navy. The biggest thing was going to boot camp is discipline, you know. I was a fairly disciplined kid anyway. So it wasn't too bad, and I didn't think it was that hard. But when you're in boot camp, you do what they say. I was an approach controller. And what an approach controller does, a GCA unit, that's ground controlled approaches, what GCA stands for. And I was the final controller. The other guys would pick up the airplane out a ways, direct it in to the flight path, and I was the one that would talk the pilot down, saying, "You're on glide path. Turn left 2 degrees, turn right 2 degrees." And in other words, I was the one that guided him down the last several thousand feet. I think that if I was to do it again, I'd do it in a heartbeat. And I can't think of anything more fulfilling than being able to fight for your country and the principles that you were fighting for. I mean, to me, that was just awesome.
Today, I got to speak with retired Marine Jerry Boylan.
My name is Jerry Boylan. I served in the Marine Corps for 26 years, retired as a first sergeant.
He then shared one of his fondest memories while in service.
I have many fond memories, but probably one of the best is when I got orders for Japan in 1981. And I had to go over by myself for the first 4 months because it's what they call an unaccompanied tour. And so after 4 months, though, I bought plane tickets for Nana and your dad and Aunt Becky. And we moved into a house off base, a Japanese house that was not too far from the main gate, but it was a Japanese house where we had to sleep on the floors with tatami mats. I remember when we got moved in, we didn't have hardly any furniture, and we went to the base dump, and we found some old couch and an old chair that was in the dump. The couch had a back, but it wouldn't stay up. That's probably why they threw it away. But it had a back that wouldn't stay up, so we pushed that up against the wall, and we sat on that up against, with the back up against the wall. The chair had no legs on it, so we just set that in a corner, flat on the floor, and we just sat on the chair on the floor. It had an American refrigerator, a big refrigerator, that didn't work very well. The oven that we had, the timer or the heat control didn't work too good. But it was a really fond memory because we really had a good time there. It was the kids, your dad and Aunt Becky, they both played with neighborhood Japanese kids, and they just had a good time. And I remember sitting at the table when we first got there, and I made a comment, or Nana made a comment about, "I love this place," you know, and Becky says, "I hate this place." And I can still hear her say that, but she learned to love it as time went on. We were there for 1 year, and then we came back to the States. But it was one of the best years of our marriage and of our life, because it just was different, and we had to talk to each other and depend upon each other, and just care about one another, and that's what family does. Mm-hmm. And it's a fond memory.
I then asked him if he would do it again if he had the opportunity.
Yes, I would. The military, the Marine Corps, was very good to me and our family. It worked out very well for us. That's why I stayed in.
He then shared some advice for people thinking about joining the Army.
I would have to say don't expect anything in the military. Do not expect anything to be handed to you. You need to work for whatever you get, and you will make or break your time in the military based upon your attitude and your frame of mind and what you want to accomplish. And just work as hard as you can and do the best job you can, and keep your mouth shut.